Good day everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. This is Gary once again. So we're here to continue with our topic on mental health. Specifically for this day, we're going to talk about different mental illness. So we have to consider that if a person may be having mental illness, the symptoms has to be classified under the Diagnostic Statistical Manual 5. So dapat may proper diagnosis, hindi lang basta-basta feeling niya. And at the same time, there is also a disruption or disturbance to the everyday work or life of the person. So we can consider it as a mental illness if the person is not capable of working well, doing his studies well, or being able to function inside the home, the community, or the environment with other people. So hindi siya makakapagtrabaho na maigi, hindi niya kaya makapag-aral ng maayos, or simply hindi niya kaya makipahalubilo sa mga tao na nasa paligid niya. Nagkakaroon ng disruption ng interaction with other people. So that's when we consider a person to be having a mental illness or nagkakaroon na ng disorder, dysfunction sa kanyang behavior. So there are different types of mental illness. There are many different conditions that are recognized as mental illnesses. The most common type would include, of course, number one, you have anxiety disorder. People with anxiety disorder respond to certain objects or situations with fear and dread, as well as with physical signs of anxiety or panic, such as rapid heartbeat and sweating. An anxiety disorder is diagnosed if the person's response is not appropriate for the situation, if the person cannot control his response, or if the anxiety interferes with normal functioning. Right? So typically, if a person has anxiety disorder, meron niyang fear, takot yan, or nagkakaroon ng threat sa kanya, or there are times in which he would not be able to respond well to the situation that he is presented to. So when we talk about different anxiety disorders, it would include what we call as the Generalized Anxiety Disorder, or the GAD. It is characterized by persistent and excessive worry about a number of different things. People with GAD may anticipate disaster and may be overly concerned about money, health, family, work, or other issues. Individuals with GAD find it hard to control their worry. So pag may GAD ang isang tao, nag-worry siya and he would anticipate disaster. Maambon lang, feeling niya magkakaroon na ng malaking baha or feeling niya lulubog na ang lugar o yung bahay nila because of a certain anxiety attack. Right? So people with GAD would have a lot of concern na nag-worry sila sa pera nila, feeling nila maubos na yung pera nila o kaya feeling nila may sakit sila, there's something wrong with the family, sa trabaho, or kung ano mang issue na meron siya. Okay, so that's one anxiety disorder what we should consider. Right? And also, tinatawag na panic disorder. When we talk about panic disorder, this is a type of anxiety disorder caused by panic attacks, which are sudden feelings of terror when there is no real danger. So pag yung tao nagkakaroon ng panic attack, bigla na lang yan nagpapanik. From the term itself, nagpapanik yan. Tapos, from these different experiences that the person is having their panic attacks, wala namang apparent reason or wala namang real danger or threat na presented pero nagpapanik siya. Typically, nagkakaroon dito pain. May sumasakit sa katawan niya. Nausea, bigla na lang may nasusuka or bigla na lang siya nagkakaroon ng headache. Right? If the person may have panic attacks, pag natutulog yan, they may incur nightmares, kakaroon ng mga bad dreams, ay binabangungot sila. Then they also have obsessive thoughts. Dahil meron silang anxiety, they would be having their panic, tapos kailangan nilang uminom ng gamot, kahit wala namang effect yung gamot sila, or kailangan nilang gumawa ng mga ritualistic behavior because of the obsessive thoughts that they're having. Right? And the last one, isa sa mga common behavior ng mga taong may panic disorder is there's fear of leaving the house. Yan. Hindi na lang sila umalis sa bahay nila para hindi sila nagkakaroon ng mga panic attacks. Right? Another form of anxiety disorder. Okay? So we also have, under the anxiety disorder, we also have the agoraphobia. Agoraphobia is the fear of being in situations where escape may be difficult or embarrassing, or help may not be available in the event of panic symptoms. They would have fear out of the proportion to the actual situation and lasts generally 6 months. Right? A person with agoraphobia would experience fear in these different kinds of situation. Ayaw niyang sumakay sa mga public transport. Kakain siya ng takot. Being in open spaces, sa mga open na lugar. Being in enclosed places. Standing in line or in a crowd. Being outside the home alone. Ayaw rin nilang lumabas mo sa yan. So, yun yung mga type to which we consider these people suffering from what we call as agoraphobia. Takot sila dun sa mga situation na feeling nila it's very difficult for them to escape kung may mangyari, or it's going to be embarrassing for them. Okay, so yan ang tinatawag mo ngayong agoraphobia. We also have the social anxiety disorder. This is also known as social phobia. It is a mental condition of which there is an intense, persistent fear of being watched and judged by others. Takot siyang makita or feeling niya pinapanood siya, at saka feeling niya ginajudge siya ng ibang tao. Kaya ang nangyari ay nagkakaroon siya ng fear being in a social environment or in a social gatherings or activities that would require him to be interactive with people. That is what we call a social anxiety disorder. Then you have the specific phobia or phobia. I-clear lang po natin. When we say phobia, it is an excessive and persistent fear of a specific object, situation, or activity that is generally not harmful. Right? So dito, pag sabi natin phobia, irrational fear. So there's no reason to be afraid of something because the item that they're afraid of is generally, it's not harmful. Right? And of course, you have to consider the difference between phobia and trauma. Pag sinabi natin trauma, meron siyang na-experience pertaining the event. Right? So halimbawa, may phobia siya sa ATM card. Okay? Phobia sa ATM card because of anxiety, nagkaroon siya ng fear dun sa card. But when you talk about trauma, pwedeng pinasok niya sa machine yung card, hindi na lumabas, na-hold up siya, nakuha yung card niya, or any event that leads to him being afraid of the card. Yun, nagiging trauma yun kasi meron siyang prior experience with that. We consider it as trauma. But when we talk about phobia, wala siyang prior experience dun sa event. So, nagkaroon lang siya ng fear that is considered to be irrational. Yun yung sinasabi natin phobia. Typically, people with phobia know that their fear is excessive, but they cannot overcome it. Alam takot sila pero hindi nila makontrol. This fear causes such distress that some people go to extreme length of avoid what they fear. Halimbawa, meron na tayong na-encounter fear of spiders, which is common. Yung mga fear of different objects na wala namang reason para matakot sila, nagkakaroon sila ng fear with the item. So that's what we call as phobia. Specifically, maraming mga phobia na nakalista sa ating mga manuals at saka sa ating mga handbook. They range from a variety of objects that is not harmful pero may taong nagtatakot pa rin sa kanila. Then you also have the separation anxiety disorder. A person with separation anxiety disorder is excessively fearful or anxious about separation from those with whom he or she is attached. The feeling is beyond what is appropriate for the person's age, where it could persist to about 4 weeks in children and 6 months to adults, and would cause problems in functioning. A person with separation anxiety disorder may be persistently worried about losing the person closest to him or her, may be reluctant or refuse to go out or sleep away from home or without that person, or may experience nightmares about separation. Right? So, ayaw ng taong magkaroon ng separation with a specific individual. Halimbawa, sa mga bata po, kung sino nag-aalaga sa kanila, kung sino ang nagbibigay sa kanila ng primary satisfaction. For adults, they may be dependent to a specific person, kaya hindi sila makaalis or hindi sila makagawa ng mga activity nila that would pertain the absence of the other person. So, hindi siya makaalis ng bahay, hindi siya makapunta sa mga events, hindi siya makapagtrabaho. Kasi gusto niya lagi siyang nakadikit sa isang tao. That's what we call as separation anxiety disorder. Right? So, pag nagkaroon ng separation, tumataas ang kanilang anxiety level. Another type of mental illness is what we call or categorize as mood disorders. These disorders, it is also known as affective disorder, involve persistent feelings of sadness or periods of feelings overly happy or fluctuations from extreme happiness to extreme sadness. The most common disorders are depression, bipolar disorder, and cyclothymic disorder. Right? So every one of us would experience sadness or irritability, or generally there's the case of you're not in the mood at one time or the other. While bad moods are common and usually pass in a short period of time, people suffering with mood disorders live with more sustained and severe symptoms and disruptions. People living with this mental illness find their mood impacts both mental and psychological well-being nearly every day and often for much of the day. So technically, andyan yung tinatawag nating depression, right? Please be very, very careful when you recognize the idea of depression. Minsan po kasi may mga taong sinasabi lang na depressed siya, ayaw niyang pumasok, magmumall na lang siya, or sa bahay na lang siya, manonood na lang siya ng TV. Number one, when we talk about depression, you're supposed to be clinically diagnosed, right? There is already a law protecting mental health, and therefore, katulad ng sinabi ko sa first part ng aking discussion on mental health, it is free consultation, free medication, and free hospitalization. So, there's no reason for you not to be diagnosed if you feel like you're having depression. Right? When we talk about depression, it's extreme sadness. Kasi talagang malungkot na malungkot yan, and the person doesn't want to do anything. Iba po yan sa tamad. Person doesn't want to do anything, gusto lang niyang wala, nakahiga lang siya. Or I was able to meet someone who even had a symptom of depression na ayaw na niyang huminga. So yan, dyan magpo-fall ang tinatawag ng depression. But other than that, baka nagkakaroon ka lang ng sadness. Right? Then there's also what we call as the bipolar disorder. When we talk about bipolar disorder, we're talking about the extremities of the feelings or the emotions. Sobrang malungkot na malungkot siya, tapos biglang sobrang masaya naman siya. So, nag-extreme. Right? Maya-maya, nag-iiba yung mood niya. Kanina, ang sweet-sweet niya, all of a sudden, biglang nawawala. And it would persist for a long period of time. Not unlike the bipolar disorder, yung cyclothymic disorder naman natin persists for a shorter period of time. Almost pareho lang siya ni bipolar, pero mas maiksi ang period ng kanyang manifestations or symptoms. Yan po yung tinatawag nating mood disorders. Okay? Then we also have the different psychotic disorders. Right? Ito na po, medyo mabigat-bigat na yan. Psychotic disorders involve distorted awareness and thinking. Two of the most common symptoms of psychotic disorders are hallucination, the experience of images that are not real, such as hearing voices, and delusions. Right? So, nagkakaroon siya ng hallucination, may naririnig siya, may nakikita siya, or nagkakaroon siya ng kung ano-anong mga experience which is not true. Right? Nagkakaroon din siya ng tinatawag nating delusion. When we say delusion, these are false fixed belief that the ill person accepts to be true despite evidences to the contrary. Kaya nagkakaroon ng mga belief siya, naniniwala siya sa isang bagay na hindi naman totoo at pinangangatawanan niya. Okay? So that's what we call as psychotic disorders. Yung mga usual na psychotic disorders natin, sama natin dyan yung tinatawag natin schizophrenia. Usually, a person with schizophrenia would hear voices, he would have hallucinations, delusions, nagkakaroon ng social withdrawal, incoherent speech, yung kanyang mga sinasabi hindi nagtutugma, nagkakaroon siya ng abnormal reasoning. So that's the common symptoms of schizophrenia. Right? Then there's also dementia. Dementia is distinguished by the disruption of the consciousness as well as changes in cognitive health such as memory loss and memory skill. When we talk about dementia, nawawala na ang kanyang capability for consciousness. Nasisira ang kanyang memory, sa yung kanyang motor skills. Hindi na siya makaalala, hindi na niya kayang gawin yung mga usual acts na kaya naman niyang gawin. The most common form of dementia would include what we call as Alzheimer's disease. When you talk about Alzheimer's disease, yung brain part natin nagkakaroon na ng deterioration, and because of that, nakakalimutan na niya or nagkakaroon siya ng tinatawag na dementia. Then another type of mental illness is eating disorders. Eating disorders involve extreme emotions, attitudes, and behavior involving weight and food. Eating disorders are serious chronic conditions that can be life-threatening if not treated well. While there are variation in the expression, symptoms, and course of eating disorders, the common is that they all involve obsessive and sometimes stressing thoughts and behavior that would include reduction of food intake, overeating, feelings of depression and distress, concern of weight, body shape, and poor image. At the onset, these disorders begin with the person eating smaller or larger portions than usual. However, over time, urges to decrease or increase food intake would take hold and the illness would escalate. Three most common types of eating disorders are anorexia nervosa, or they do self-starvation, right? Typically, pwede natin i-consider yung anorexia nervosa that they have food phobia. Takot sila sa pagkain or ayaw nilang ipakita na kumakain sila. You also have the bulimia nervosa, binge eating followed by purging, fasting, or excessive exercise. Halimbawa, kumain siya ng marami. Pagkakain niya ng marami, he would tend to flush it out by taking laxatives or by being fast or to do fasting or excessive exercise. So, kumain siya ng isang slice ng cake, tapos nag-jogging siya for the entire afternoon na feeling niya kasi lalaki siya ng gusto. So, doon pumapasok yung tinatawag nating bulimia nervosa. Then there's also the binge eating disorder. These are episodes of uncontrolled eating without the abuse of laxative or vomiting associated with bulimia. Right? So dito naman, sa binge eating disorder naman, because they are into the mental illness, they are troubled, they would tend to eat a lot. And they would put everything in their body without the abuse of laxative or vomiting. Then we also have the impulse control and addiction disorder. People with impulse control disorders are unable to resist urges or impulses to perform acts that could be harmful to themselves or others. Tulad yan, meron tayong tinatawag ng mga pyromania. Yan. Hindi nila makontrol yung sarili nila, nagsusunog sila. You also have kleptomania. Hindi nila mapigilan ang sarili niya magnakaw. And typically, the most common of all, yung tinatawag natin compulsive gambling na ginagawa ng mga sugarol. Hindi nila mapigilan ang sarili nila na hindi magsugal. Kahit na maliliit na bagay na pwede nilang pagpustahan or pwede silang sumugal, magsusugal sila because they're into the impulse control disorder. Okay? We also have the addiction disorder. Alcohol and drugs are common objects of addiction. Often, people with this disorder become so involved with the objects of their addiction that they begin to ignore responsibilities and relationships. Nagiging addict po yan pag nagsisimula na po silang magnakaw para makabili ng item, or yung kanilang mga responsibility at saka mga relationship, ini-ignore na nila at hindi na nila mapigilan ang kanilang mga sarili into having the alcohol or drugs that they are abusing. So that is impulse control and addiction disorder, another form of mental illness. And of course, kasama rin sa ating mental illness ang tinatawag nating personality disorders. People with personality disorders have extreme and inflexible personality traits that are distressing to the other people and cause of problem in their work, their school, or social relationship. Usually, the person's pattern of thinking and behavior significantly differ from the expectation of the society and are so rigid that they interfere with the person's normal functioning. Typically, ang ating mga personality disorders, kasama dyan, antisocial personality disorder, obsessive-compulsive personality disorder, paranoid personality disorder, and all those types. Usually, makikita po natin yung mga personality disorders natin yan if you're going to look onto the Diagnostic Statistical Manual version 5, and you will be able to locate on that and you can see on as part of our mental illness. So there you have it, the different mental illnesses that a person may have because they are not able to take care of their mental health. So once again, thank you very much for watching. I hope you were able to pick out a thought or two with the topic that we had on mental health. Alright, so please feel free to watch my other videos and please subscribe to my channel. Press the subscribe button and the notification button, and there you have it. Thank you very much. Stay safe. Alam na dis.